Hi everybody, Kyle Baley again, Coding Hillbilly, and we're in another episode in the Brownfield series on Brownfield applications. The first episode we talked about setting up a source control tree structure that will cause less friction with your team, will make them a little bit more productive, and in this one we're going to see how that is, how we can make use of our source control system more effectively. We'll talk about a common scenario in a multi-developer environment, and that's merge conflicts in code that's been checked in. You could get this in a single developer environment, I suppose, too, but if you do, chances are you've got some sort of personality disorder. We're going to mimic the multi-developer environment with two folders here. Developer number one is working on this folder on his machine. Developer number two is working on the same application in his folder on his machine. Developer one, call him Huey. Developer two, say he's Lewis. Okay. Huey comes in the morning and does what every developer should do in the morning: get the latest version of the code. In this case, update is a Subversion term for it. Okay. During the course of the day, he decides last name is not very clear. He wants to rename this to surname, which is far clearer. Now, he does this. I did a resharper rename, which is kind of a smart version of the rename, and I'm pretty sure Visual Studio does the same thing. Any place where the property is being used, it gets renamed there as well. So here, we had a change from last name to surname. Compile the application. Compiles great. Check in /commit. You can go home with the knowledge of a job well done. He takes off for vacation for a week. The next day, Lewis comes in, and first thing he does, of course, get the latest version, do an update, and you'll notice down here, change from last name to surname. No big deal. He goes on about his business, and there's been no conflict. Okay? Now, let's say Huey comes back from vacation. He and Lewis both come in. Huey gets in first, gets the latest version, notices that in the week he's been gone there have been no changes, not as uncommon as you might think, and he goes about his business. Decides, you know what? Last name was the proper name for this property. I'm going to rename it. Okay? So it gets changed. Artist info gets changed as well. Meanwhile, while he's working, Lewis comes in as well, and he is going to update, realizing there haven't been any changes. Okay? And he goes about his business. Okay, let's go back to Huey. While he's working away, he decides he's going to check in his changes. Great. Lewis is working away. One of the things he's decided to do is create a new web control. This one's going to store backup singer information. Okay? So in his work here, artist surname equal to, let's say, Jackson. Okay? He creates this, compiles it. Great. Succeeds. Commit. He can go home, again with the knowledge of a job well done. Huey comes in the next day. We're back to Huey here. Get the latest version of the code. And compile it. And all of a sudden, we've got a problem. Surname does not exist. Why is that? Compiles fine on Lewis's machine over here, But on Huey's machine, it doesn't exist. He made a change to the application. Okay? The reason this is a problem is because Lewis didn't perform the check-in dance. Okay? I'm just gonna fix this up quickly, check it in, so we can get back into a stable state here. Commit. So we're back to a place where we're using last name as the property. And we'll go through the same scenario here. Huey comes in, decides this needs to be surname. Okay? So it gets changed here, it gets changed in artist info, it gets changed in backup singer. He compiles, and all is well. Check in. Commit. Okay? Now Lewis comes along. While he's working away, he creates a control. Another singer. And he creates an artist. Artist last name is equal to... Okay. He compiles. Works great. So he's almost ready to check in. Beforehand, this is what he would do. He would check in. But as part of the check-in dance, before he does that, after he's verified that it works on his machine, let's get the latest version of the code. Now let's compile again. Whoops, there have been some changes since the last time he got the latest version. Last name is no longer last name, it's been changed. Now it's Lewis's responsibility to make sure the code that he's about to check in works in the source control repository. So he changes it to surname, verifies that it works with the latest changes that he's made, and now he's ready to check in. There may have been changes made in the last couple minutes since he did do an update, but the risk of that is much more minimal now. Now, with this new control that he's added, next time Huey does an update, it's going to work. By work we mean it'll compile. Okay? What we've done with the check-in dance here is we've shifted the responsibility from the person who next checks out the code to the person who's about to check in the code. It is the person who's about to check in the code who is responsible to make sure that those changes that he's made are going to work with what is currently in the source code repository. So again, the steps in the check-in dance, as they are now, are make the changes to the code, make sure it works on your machine, update to get the latest version from the source code repository, compile again to make sure it's still going to work right before you check in. Commit your changes. In later episodes, we're going to add continuous integration and unit testing to this, and we'll see then how the check-in dance becomes even more important to make sure that everything works before you check it in. The idea here is that you want to make sure that the source control repository always contains a good version of the code, that the next person to check it out is going to be able to compile it. So congratulations on learning how to dance, and we will see you guys next time.